About that time, this little 5'2", gorgeous little brunette walks up to the table. She looks at me and says, honey, I was just talking to some of the ladies, and you're not going to believe this, but they said that 20 miles from here is like one of the biggest outlet malls in this part of the world. I said, really? She said, yeah, but she said that the traffic is just horrible this time of year. And said, sometimes it takes an hour and a half, but there's some back ways to go. But, I'll never find it. I'll never find my way back to camp, And we just wondering, we'd really like to go shopping, 2 or 3 or maybe 4 days, out of the 5 that we're going to be here. And so we was just wondering if you'd be willing to take us, And you got to understand, I'd rather eat dirt than go to an outlet mall. And so there in front of my spiritual peers and everyone else looking on this little table, this little 5'2" little woman that's not making demands, just a simple request, I looked at her and I put on my best masculine voice and I threw my shoulders back and I said, okay. And so for 3 days I went to the outlet mall. He said, why would you do that? Well, because she's not only my wife, but she's the best friend and lots of times the only friend that I have. And we have a real simple arrangement. Whatever she asks for, she gets. She never abuses it. She never abuses it. She's worked for 36 years, whatever she asks for. She gets. If I can't afford it, God can. He has plenty. I thought about that. I said, God, you changed your mind because you really like this guy, Moses, don't you? I said, yeah, I do. And then Moses does a really stupid thing, and I'm going to close. Verse 16. God has told him. Now, I guess he still gets the angel, you think? It must get to be a big deal because we're still talking about him, a couple, 3,000 years later. Gets all the money or whatever. But now God's going with him. If you were going to give Moses some advice sitting in the tent right here, and Moses is getting ready to open his mouth and say something else to God, what would you say to Moses right now? Shut up, Moses. You're going to ruin the deal. Shut up. Moses says, God, if you don't go with me, don't send me up from here. Because without you, I'll just be like everybody else. There's nothing to distinguish me from everybody else on the planet except for you. Hear that again. There's nothing to distinguish me from everybody else on the planet except for you. And I have news for us tonight. Whether you're a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, wealthy, poor, strong, weak, healthy, sick, influential, unknown, you're just like everybody else. Apart from the presence of God. The plane landed. I went home. Got a fresh change of clothes and jumped in my vehicle and hit the road for 13 days of speaking. At the end of that, I was way past exhaustion. I finished up with a college function down in West Texas, and it was one of those God things. He just showed up and did amazing stuff, that you love to write about in newsletters that people give money for. I went back to my hotel that Saturday night, really nice hotel. It still had green shag carpet. I didn't even know that stuff existed anymore. 2 channels and snow. Dairy Queen closed at 8:30. God, I don't need this. For some stupid reason, I told the pastor I would stay and preach the next morning, and I don't even like Sunday morning. No, I really don't. I'm not a Sunday morning guy. But I told him I'd stay. And so I did. Don't you wish I'd been preaching at your church? I came in, I was sitting right there, and all I wanted was, I want 12:05. That's what I want. I want 12:05. You give me 12:05, God, I'm eastbound and down. Well, the worship team stayed over, and they're a bunch of college kids, and they didn't know that God was boring yet. And so they got up that morning. They couldn't believe that they were getting to worship anywhere, much less in big church. And so they're worshiping from their toes. And I mean, it's just amazing. And, they're singing. Next thing I know, everybody in the church is singing, which doesn't happen in this church on Sunday morning. Next thing I know, people are standing up and doing weird stuff, which doesn't happen in this church on Sunday morning. But I'm still sitting right there, and I'm going, come on, we got to go. We got to go. Come on, we don't need this. We got to go. They started singing a new song. I don't know if it was the melody or the lyrics that captured me. But one of the two did, and I caught myself singing it. It's one of those we sing 16 times so that you can get it. And about the 15th time, I heard it echoing in my ear, and here's what the lyrics said. Listen carefully. I heard my voice say, more than the water, I love the fountain. More than the warmth, I love the flame. More than green pastures, I love the shepherd. More than my life, I love your name. So here I am. Take my life and be glorified in me. As I sat right there and sang that song, God the Holy Spirit whispered in this ear right here, and here's what he said. He said, liar, liar, pants on fire. Excuse me? You are such a liar. What are you talking about? This is all going on. What do you mean? I'm saying, more than the water, you love the fountain. More than the warmth, you love the flame. Wait, when did this? More than green pastures, you love the shepherd. I got news for you, Mike Curry. You don't give a rip about the shepherd as long as the grass is green. You don't care where the heat comes from as long as you're warm. And you don't care where the water supply comes from as long as you're not thirsty. You could care less about me. I'm just Santa Claus to you. So let's quit the lying, okay? Just me. I preached that morning. I have no idea what I said. On that 11-hour drive home, almost every hour, I was just begging God, would you just talk to me like a friend talks to a friend? He said, I did this morning. And then I realized the thing that made me inferior, the reason when I went to Waffle House I got fat and other people got inspired, the reason that my friend could take one verse and squeeze more of God's honey out of it than I could ever squeeze in a month was for one simple reason. They didn't want the platform. They didn't want the power. They didn't want the prestige. They didn't want the money. They just wanted God. And because that's all they wanted, that's what they got. And what they never understood was it's impossible to have the presence of God without living in the power and the provision and the protection of God. But it only comes to those who want Him. Not who He is, not what He does, not what He has. They just want Him. I want you just to do an experiment with me. I told you that I would do nothing to embarrass you, and I'm going to keep that pledge to you. Some of you have been to church before, and this is the time when you start getting nervous or going through your mental drill about how to resist the preacher. Relax, I'm not going to make you do anything, except I want you to do this experiment with me. I don't care if you bow your head or not. I don't care if you close your eyes. I want you just to repeat the lyric to that song just loud enough so your ears can hear it, not so your buddy can hear it. This is not choral reading. I just want you to hear your ears. Your ears hear your voice say these words. We do that. If you want to do it in attitude of prayer, it's fine. If not, you can just do it looking at me. See what happens. Humor me on this.